We were discussing from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I believe we were discussing chapter 19. Last time we read up to text 10. So today, probably, we'll start reading from text. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavata Namo Kinchana Vittaya Rishi Vishakaya Naranarayana Paramahamsa Paramaguruve Atmaram Adhipataye Namo Namo Iti. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self-controlled and self-realized. He is free from false prestige. And he is the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He is the spiritual master of all the princes, who are the most exalted human beings, and he is the master of the self-realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances unto his lotus feet. Gayati Chedam Karatasya Sargadishu Nahanyate Tatopi Daikai Tarashto Nagrigyasya Gune Vidushyate Tasmai Namo Shanata Vivikta Shakshin Narada, the most powerful saintly sage, also worships Lord Narayan by chanting the following. The Supreme Personality of God is the master of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this visible cosmic manifestation. Yet, he is completely free from false prestige. Although to the foolish he appears to have accepted a material body like us, he is unaffected by bodily tribulations like hunger, thirst, and fatigue. Although he is the witness who sees everything, his senses are unpolluted by the objects he sees. Let me offer our respectful obeisances and with that unattached, pure witness of the world, the Supreme Soul, the personality. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is described as Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the body of eternity, transcendental bliss, full knowledge. Now, in this verse, he is more fully described. Krishna is the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, yet he is unattached to it. If we were to construct a very tall skyscraper, we would be very attached to it. But Krishna is so immense that although he has created everything, he is not attached to anything. Nabhadyate. Furthermore, although Krishna has his transcendental form, Satchit Anand Vigraha, he is not disturbed by the bodily necessities of life, which are called Daihika. For example, he is never hungry, thirsty, or fatigued. Nahanyate Dehadato Vidaihikaye. Then again, since everything is Krishna's property, he sees everything and is present everywhere. But because his body is transcendental, he is above the vision, the objects of vision, and the process of vision. When we see something beautiful, we get attracted. The sight of a beautiful woman immediately attracts the mind, and the sight of a man naturally attracts the mind. Krishna, however, is transcendental to all these faults. Although he is a seer of everything, he is not afflicted with faulty vision. Nothing yasya guneir vidushyate. Therefore, although he is a witness and a seer, he is aloof from all affection for the activities he sees. He is always unattached and separate. He is only a witness. So very beautiful. Three things are mentioned about the Supreme, the nature of the Supreme Lord. First, the Lord has created everything. But he is not proud. He doesn't have any false prestige. Rather, he is so renounced. He's not attached to it. Actually, Lord Narayan Rishis, they exhibit the renunciation feature of the Supreme Lord. And that's why this very beautiful glorification is saying that he's a sayer Supreme Lord. Lord Narayan Rishi, more popularly, they also know them as Lord Narayan, Narayan Rishi, and Lord Badrivishal. Lord Badrinath is saying, not attached to this creation, not at all filled with false pride and prestige. Always desiring the welfare of all the living entities. Second aspect is explained that the Lord's body is transcendental. Therefore, the Lord is not afflicted by the bodily disturbances, the hunger, thirst, etc. So much so that the Lord cannot be provoked as well. Krishna cannot be provoked as well. And we see this quality in Lord Narayan Rishis. So they are not afflicted by hunger first. That also adds on to the aspect that yes, Lord Narayan Rishis were the epitome of renunciation. So they're completely transcendent, not at all afflicted by the bodily disturbances. So the third thing is, well, the Lord sees everything, but the Lord cannot be attracted or agitated. He is unattached. The Lord cannot be enticed. So this was the policy of Indra, who had sent Mother Brahma to entice the Supreme Lord in his incarnation as Narayan Rishis. And that's why you see all these three beautiful qualities of the Lord are being explained so that we can really understand that the Lord is unaffected and the Lord is aloof from all these mundane allurements. That is a divine position of the Supreme Lord. In all his forms, especially the forms of Narayan Rishis, as is mentioned here. Let's read further. Idan Yogeshwar Yoganayana Hiranyagarbho Bhagavan Jagataya Yadantakaale Tvai Nirgune Mano Pratyadadi Tojita Tushkale Varaha. Oh my Lord, Master of all mystic yoga, this is the explanation of the yogic process spoken of by Lord Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, who is self-realized. At the time of death, all yogis give up the material body with full detachment simply by placing their minds at your lotus feet. That is the perfection of yoga. Srila Madhvacharya said, Yasya samyak bhagavati jnanam tistataiva cha nishchittastasya mokshasya sarvapamakritopitu. For one who very seriously practices devotional service during his lifetime, in order to understand the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, liberation from this material world is guaranteed, even if he has previously been addicted to sinful habits. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Niche sugadachyadam ajate nananayam sadhureva samantapya samyak vyavasito isaha 930. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in the devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. The only purpose of life is to be fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and his form, his pastimes, his activities, and qualities. If one is able to think of Krishna in this way 24 hours a day, he is already liberated. Swarupena Vyavastiti. Whereas materialists are absorbed in material thoughts and activities. Devotees, on the contrary, are always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna and Krishna's activities. Therefore, they are already on the platform of liberation. One has to think of Krishna with full absorption at the time of death. Then he will certainly lead home back to Godhead without a doubt. Yes, another one is describing how liberation, or very precisely going back to Godhead, is not an impossible phenomenon. We remain or proceed towards what we catch and latch on to. So therefore, renunciation from the material amenities is one of the pivotal factors which decide one's spiritual. Because we will only be able to catch Krishna to the degree we have given up hold of the material attachments. Therefore, Prabhupada says sense gratification and Krishna consciousness go ill together. So one whose mind is absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, such a person is already liberated. Especially Prabhupada hints at this point that this absorption of Krishna, absorption on Krishna has to be every day, all the time. And that is what prepares oneself to absorb on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, even in the time of death. Yes, we will. So therefore, devotional service has to be taken seriously, as Prabhupada conclude. As Prabhupada starts this purport with that. One takes seriously, even though one has been addicted to sinful activities previously, now one is taking to Krishna consciousness seriously. Everything inauspicious will be watched. यतैः कामुष्मिका कामालम्पतः सुतेषु दारेषु मुनीषु चिन्तयामि सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकले परात्यया यस्तस्य यत्नाशम एव केवलम् Materialists are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed thoughts of their wives, children, and wealth, and are afraid of giving up their bodies, which are full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, then what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras? Shama even in Kirtan. So it is said is simply a waste of time. Okay. At the time of death, a materialist thinks of his wife and children. He's so absorbed in thinking how they will live and who will take care of them after he leaves. Consequently, he's never prepared to give up his body. Rather, he wants to continue to live in his body, to serve his society, family, friends, and so on. Therefore, by practicing a mystic yoga system, one must become detached from the bodily relationships. So, despite practicing Bhakti Yoga and studying all the Vedic literature, one is afraid of giving up his bad body, which is the cause of all his suffering. Then, what is the use of his attempts to advance in spiritual life? The secret of success in practicing yoga is to become free from bodily attachments. Here, Narottam Thakur says, Deha smritiya hiya sansaravan kamatara. One whose practice has freed him from the anxieties of bodily necessities Such a person is freed from conditioned bondage. So, a person with Krishna consciousness must fully discharge his devotional duties without attachments. Then his liberation is guaranteed. So, a person in Krishna consciousness must fully discharge his devotional duties without material attachments. So, we can clearly see here that the Falashruti yoga is not just remembrance of the Shastras, but is in terms of manifestation of saintly and divine traits. So that knowledge of the scriptures is supposed to give, or supposed to confer fearlessness and detachment. And therefore it is said that one is knowing the scriptures, but is still attached to the material accolades. And what is the use of this tapasya and this knowledge? So bhakti is a transformative science. Everything in bhakti should lead one to practical devotional service. So effects of bhakti and strong conviction manifest and have faith in Krishna and Shanagati manifests in the form of these divine traits. One of which is highlighted here, Abhaya. Let's read further. Next 15. Tanna Prabhuta Mukale Vararpitam Dharmayaya Mamata Madhukshasha Indhyayena Subhayam Sukurvidam Videhi Yogam Tvaina Swabhavaniti. Therefore, O Lord, O Transcendence, please help us by giving us the power to execute Bhakti Yoga so that we can control our restless minds and fix them upon you. We are all infected by your illusory energy. Therefore, we are very much attached to the body, which is full of stool and urine, and to anything related with the body, except for devotional service. There is no way to give up this attachment. Therefore, kindly bestow upon us this benediction. Forward. The Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita, Anmanabhava Mantrito Madhyajima Namaskar. The perfect yoga system consists of always thinking of Krishna, always engaging in devotional service, always worshipping Krishna, and always offering obeisances unto him. Unless we practice this yoga system, our illusory attachment for this bad body, which is full of stool and urine, is impossible to do. The perfection of yoga consists of giving up attachment for this body and bodily relationships and transferring their attachment to Krishna. We are very attached to material. When we transfer the same attachment to Krishna, we traverse the path of liberation. One has to practice this yoga system and none other. And Shri Muni is asking the benediction of the opportunity to perform devotional service steadily. It is very difficult to give up material attachments. That's the point Prabhupada is highlighting. Material attachments create a bondage, and it's very difficult to give it. It is only possible by the practice of devotional service, by engagement in devotional service. And therefore, Narmada is asking for the benediction of service. When we are positively, consciously serving Krishna, there is no breeding ground for the material infections to generate. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Sudarshan Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we can say that connection to Krishna, or touch with Krishna, is like that antivirus or that vaccine, that it destroys all the viruses. And therefore, this touch with Krishna has to be constant. Because material world is composed of such lethal viruses that instantly one can catch. a material disease on a very high point. So we will see that just like there are certain kinds of cancers and they spread throughout the body to a terminal stage within 3 months also. The plane of the mind is much more faster. So metal infection entering the mind will not even take 3 months. It will instantly expand towards action, wrong action, and devastation. So therefore, we cannot afford to harbor these material infections. And we know from Bhagavatam that all these no, these material vices, they are all connected to each other. So that means activation of one will ensure that the other one also is present. And that is why a devotee doesn't take any stance. Constantly a devotee is asking and seeking and standing up to serving Krishna. Text 16. आचेति स्वेति अस्मिन् वर्षे सरिक्षमं शान्ति बहावो मलयो मङ्गलपृष्ठो मैनः श्रीकूटऋषभः कूटकः कल्लोलकः सहयोगेव गिरिवीर्यदृष्ट्या श्रीशैलवेङ्कटमणिगिरोहरि वादिवारोपित्यः सुखतिमानरिका. त्रिकागिरीं प्रियत्र द्रोणा चित्रकूटो गोवर्धनं त्रैवातकः प्रातोर्भोगीं गोकर्णः इन्द्रकिले तागिरीं चान्ये शतसहस्रः शैलस्तेषां प्रभावनादनादयश्च शान्ति असंयातः. In the tract of land known as Bharatvarsha, as in Gilavritvarsha, there are many mountains and rivers. Some of the mountains are known as Malaya, Gadapishta, Mainaka, Trikuta, Rishapa, Kutaka, Kolaka, Salia, Devanagari, Trishya, Mukha, Sri Shaila, Venkat, Mahendra, Bhaira. Polaka Sahiya Devagiri Rishi Shishela Venkata Mahendra Barikara Vindhya Shaktiman Vikshagiri Pariyatra Drona Chitrakuta Govardhan Daivataka Kakubha Nila Gopamha Indrakila Kamagiri. Besides these, there are many other hills with many large and small rivers flowing from their slopes. It's 1780. एकसामको भारत्या प्रजनामभिरेव पुनन्दिना आत्मनः चोपस्पृशन्ति चन्द्रवासा ताम्रपर्णी अपतो कृतमाला वहियायसि कावेरी पायास्विनी शङ्करा वर्ता तुङ्गभद्रा कृष्णपेण्या विमारथी गोदावरी विन्द्या आयुष्णी नाभिरेव सुरसनर्मदा चरमान्वती सिन्धुर् अन्धसोनस्य नादो महानदी वेदे स्मृतिर् ऋषिकुल्या कृशात्मा कौशिकी नामदाकिनी मंदाकिनी यमुना सरस्वती दृशाद्वती गोमती सरयू रोधा स्वती सप्तवती सुषो शतदुश्चन्द्रमा मधुर्वृध वितस्त अशिग्ने पिबेसति मनानाति. Two of the rivers, the Brahmaputra and the Sona, are called Nadas or the main rivers. There are other great rivers that are very prominent: Chandrabasa, Tamprapani, Vattoda, Kritamala, Vai, Hayasi, Kaveri, Veni, Payasku, Sakaravarta, Tungabhadra, Krishna Venya, Bhi, Marathi, Bhimarathi, Godavari, Nirvindya, Payosmani, Tapi, Revasura Narmada, Charamanvati, Mahanadi, Vedespati, Rishikulya, Krishna, Kaushiki, Mandakini, Yamuna, Saraswati, Risha, Doiti, Gomata, Gomati, Sari, Uthaswati, Saptavati, Sushon, Satra, Duru, Chandrabhaga, Marudvridha, Vitasta, Ashikni, Vishnu. So the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha are purified because they always remember these two rivers. Sometimes they chant the names of the rivers with mantras. And sometimes they go directly to the rivers to touch them and take bath. So one can be purified by remembering them, by touching them, or bathing in them. This practice is still going on. So just by beating the transcendental river, sun gets purified, as mentioned here. Even by remembering them, touching them. One time, Gurudev Radhanand Maharaj was explaining how Mother Ganges is so pure. He said the breeze which is coming from Mother Ganges, if it touches one's body, that person is sure to get devotional service, pure devotional service. So just by the breeze which is coming, one is bound from Mother Ganges, one is bound to pure devotional service. So that is why we see that Krishna has implanted in this world so many avenues that one can connect to bring solidity, seriousness, and one's life. Text 19. अस्मिने विवर्षे पुरुषे जन्म जन्मपि शुक्रलोहित कृष्ण वर्णेन स्वरातिं कर्मणा दिव्यमनुषा नरकागतयो महाव्य आत्मा अनुपूर्व्येन सर्वाणि एव सर्वेषां विधीयन्ते यथा विधानमामुपवर्गश्चापि भवति. The people who take birth in this tract of land are divided according to the qualities of inclination, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So some of them, one is exalted personality and some is ordinary being, and some is extremely abominable. For Bharatvarsha, one takes birth exactly according to one's previous birth. If one's position is ascertained by a bona fide spiritual master, and one is properly trained to engage in the service of the Lord Vishnu, according to the four social divisions, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the four spiritual divisions, that is Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So then one's life becomes perfect. Purpose. For further information, one should refer to Bhagavad Gita 14.16 and 18.44-45. So in this book, Vedartha Sangraha, एवं विद्ध पराभक्षी स्वरूप ज्ञान विशेष योत्पादक पूर्वो ज्ञान पूर्वात् कामनुराग्रहीत योग एव यथोक्तं भागवता परस्तारेण वर्णस्यामीति निखिलजगत् उदाहरणाय स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिर्यथा विन्दति कृष्णो यथा प्रावृत्ते भूतानां येन सर्वं विदधतं. So in the Vishnu Puran, the great sage Parashar Muni has recommended Varnashramacharvata Purushena Parabrahman Vishnu Purana Santha Nanyata Soshakarana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. So in the island of Bharatvarsha, the institution of Varnashrama can be easily adopted. At the present moment, certain demoniac sections of the populations of Bharatvarsha disregarding the system of Varnashrama dharma. Because there is no instruction to teach people how to become Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. This is resulting in chaotic conditions. So, in the name of secular government, unqualified people are taking the supreme governmental force. No one is being trained to act according to the principles of Varnashma Dharma, and thus people are becoming increasingly degraded and are heading in the direction of animal life. So people are heading in the direction of animal life. Now, the real aim of life is liberation, but unfortunately, the opportunity for liberation is being denied by the people in general, and therefore the human lives are getting spoiled. So the Krishna consciousness movement, however, is propagated all over the world to re-establish the Varnashrama Dharma system and thus save the human society from gliding down into the hellish misery. Yes. So without this Varnashrama Dharma, without these divine instructions of the Lord, everything else is will just crumble down. So therefore it is said that without Krishna's instructions, everything else is degrading. So therefore it is said that there is no other way to satisfy the Lord other than learning these principles of Varnashrama. X20. X verse 20. So asau bhagavati sarvabhuta anatmai nirukti nilayani paramatmani vasudeve nanya nimita bhakti yoga lakshano nanagati nimita vidya ग्रंथिरंधकद्वारे यदा हि महापुरुषः पुरुषप्रसंग. After many births, when the results of one's pious activities mature, one gets an opportunity to associate with pure devotee. Then one is able to cut the knot of bondage to ignorance, which bound him because of his very fruitive activities. As a result of associating with devotees, one gradually renders service to Lord Vasudeva, who is transcendental, free from attachment to this material world, beyond the mind and words, and independent of everything else. So that Bhakti Yoga devotional service to Lord Vasudeva is a real path of liberation. Purpose. Brahman realization is the beginning of liberation. Paramatma realization is still further advancement towards the realm of liberation. But one achieves real liberation when he understands his position as an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Muktir hitvan yatharupam swarupeణ vyavasthiti. In the material world, in the bodily concept of life, everyone is working in the wrong direction. When one becomes a Brahma Bhuta, spiritually realized, one understands he is not this body, and that working in the bodily concept of life is useless and misdirected. Then his devotional service begins. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatmana Shochati Nakakshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhati Para. One who is this transcendently situated realizes the Supreme Brahman, becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service. And the devotional service is actually liberation. When one is attracted by the beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his mind is always engaged in the Lord's lotus feet, he is no longer interested in subjects that do not help him with self realization. In other words, he loses all attraction towards material activities. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is said, Esha hi eva nandayati yada hi eva esha etasmin adrishya natmaye anirupte nilayane bhayam pratishtham vidyate aso bhayam gato bhavati. A living entity becomes established in spiritual blissful life and he understands that this happiness depends. So living in it, it becomes established in spiritual, blissful life when you fully understand that his happiness depends upon spiritual self-realization, which is the basic principle of Ananda. When he is eternally situated in the service to the Lord, who has no other Lord above him. So manifested devotional service only occurs when one attains association of pure devotees of the Lord. Because then one is able to understand one's constitutional position. That my constitutional position is to serve Krishna. And to that service, these are not separate. So one is progressing towards liberation when one is acting on the platform of an eternal servant of Krishna. Next 21. Ekadeva हि देव गायन्ति अहो अमीषां किमकारिशोभनम् प्रसन्न एषं स्वितुता स्वयं हरे यै जन्मदा निष्भारताजिरे मुकुन्द सेवोपैकं स्प्रियहीनः Since the human form of life is a sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in this land of Bharatvarsha. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of God Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? So we demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatvarsha to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged in. Perfect. So two facts are further explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sadi Leela 941. भारत भूमिते मनुष्य जन्मया जन्मस्नाकरी करपन उपपन. One was taken his birth as a human being in this land of India, that is Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all the people. There are many facilities in India, Bharatvarsha, for executing devotional service. In Bharatvarsha, all the acharyas contributed their experience. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally appeared to teach the people of Bharatvarsha how to progress in spiritual life. And be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. From all points of view, Bharatvarsha is a special way where one can very easily understand the process of devotional service and adopt it to make his life successful. If one makes his life successful in devotional service, So if one makes his life successful in devotional service and teaches devotional service in other parts of the world, people throughout the world will actually benefit. So the position when one is not intoxicated by the material vices is a very fortunate position. So we can see that the greatest curse in life is the forgetfulness of Krishna. That one is in so much illusion that Krishna was like the sun, and the Krishna was gray as the sunlight, but is not able to see. So this state of intoxication is a great, great curse. And this state of intoxication is very much prevalent in the higher planetary systems like Sadhguru. And that is why the demigods are speaking about Bharatvarsha. Because in Bhumandala, especially in Bharatvarsha, no intoxication can stay for a long. As the time factor, the Lord exposes all kinds of intoxication. So therefore, what is being glorified here is the opportunity to constantly perform devotional service. Constantly perform the devotional service. That engagement in devotional service is the supreme. So by this, we can understand that a place where there are more and more facilities for practicing devotional service, that place is the holy place. But what is holy? Holy is that it is filled with opportunities for us to serve. Take straight to Kim Dushcharen Kratubhis दानादिवीर्वा विजयेन फाल्गुनो यत्र नारायण पंकजम् स्मृति प्रमुस्ताति येन्द्रियोत्सवा. The demigods continue. After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. But the land of Bharatvarsha is so exalted that by taking birth there, one can not only attain the heavenly planets, but also go directly back home, back to Godhead. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitra Yanti Pitravrata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteksha Yanti Mat Yajinopima. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. People in the land of Bharatvarsha generally follow the Vedic principles and consequently perform great sacrifices by which they can be elevated to the heavenly planets. However, what is the use of such great attainments? As said in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Shine Punyam Telokam Vishanti. After the results of one's sacrifices, charity, and other pious activities expire, one must return to the lower planetary systems and again feel the pangs of birth and death. However, one who becomes Krishna conscious can go back to Krishna, Yanti Mat, Yajinopima. Therefore, the demigods even regret having been elevated to the higher planetary systems. The denizens of the heavenly planets regret that they could not take full advantage of being born in the land of Bharatvarsha. So the demigods regret having been elevated to the higher planetary systems. But they regret that they could not take full advantage of being born in the land of Bharatvarsha. Instead, they become captivated by a higher sense of sense gratification, and therefore they forgot the lotus feet of Lord Narayan at the time of death. The conclusion is that one who has taken birth in the land of Bharatvarsha must follow the instructions given personally by the Supreme Personality of God. Yadgadvana nivartante tadhanu paramaham. One should try to return home back to Godhead to the Vaikuntha planets or to the topmost Vaikuntha planet, Golok Vrindavan, to live eternally in full, blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of God. So the demigods are regretting that so much efforts to achieve the heavenly planets. But what do they use? There is so much of sense gratification that hardly one can remember Krishna. So actually, sense gratification is very transient but very costly. The amount of efforts to be expensed to get this sense gratification, that much amount of efforts one can give towards Krishna, one can make substantial, remarkable advancement in spiritual life. Wasting so much time. This is a great lesson for us, not to waste for the time of our life to acquire some here and there positions within this material. Generally, people keep struggling to find some a little more favorable position, a little more favorable position. None of these positions can come to any good health because everything is transient. So, what is the time? What is the benefit? Chase behind a more comfortable position, a more sustainable position. So, no position in this material world to sustain for a long time, and no position in this material world is free from anxiety. So therefore, better engage one's energy directly in the service of Krishna right from. And this is a great message which the demigods giving us, not to waste time in chasing behind more comfortable here and there positions. So better utilize the time offering service, devotional service, loving devotional service to Krishna. Let's start here for today. Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Hri Bol.